Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Alex King and Bill G. Today is Tuesday, July the 16th, 2019. It is 8 a.m. in New York and 5 a.m. in Los Angeles. That's 1 p.m. London time, 9 p.m. Tokyo time, 10 p.m. Sydney time, but wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And I'm happy that we're getting closer and closer to Friday. Friday is the world premiere of The Grass is Greener. We've been talking about it for 5 months now, Alex, and it's actually about to become a reality. And I don't know about you, I think because I'm the one who's editing together the audio files, I'm finally, for the first time, starting to get nervous.
I don't get nervous, so I don't know what to do. I don't subscribe to nerves.
I think of it as kind of like a positive nervous because it's a nervous that makes me focus on, okay, I want to get this detail right and that detail right. I got it all fitted together just perfectly, so it's really the optimum presentation.
Optimum Supreme Sound and Color by Dolby.
Oh, I like that. Very nice. Is that copyrighted?
I don't know. My brother made it up. Every time we went to the movies and Sony or Dolby would show up on the screen, he'd be like, Supreme Sound and Color. I don't know where he got it from. He just always did it.
Well, it's his trademark, so that's okay. Yeah, we won't steal his trademark, but that was really good. I like that. That's really good.
That's okay. Nervousness is just fine. I do speaking gigs all the time, and I get nervous every single time. I'm a bundle of nerves every time I'm about to go up on stage.
But this isn't even a speaking gig. I mean, I do speaking gigs every day. I do a podcast 5 days a week. That doesn't make me nervous. But when I have this, I think what it is
this is our baby.
It is our baby
to the world.
And it's the first episode, and you want so much to make a good impression with that first episode, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's what it is. I would actually be better off if I did it live. If I just did it speaking, I wouldn't be as nervous that way.
Right.
But when I have time to think about it, that's when it gets dangerous.
The editing and the post-production and all that other stuff in there. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And it's about 3/4 edited right now as we are doing this recording. Mm-hmm. And, of course, each step, we did 10 scenes, right, Alex? And as I'm actually editing one scene at a time, and then I have a final file that puts them all together. So I have a file right now that has 6 of the scenes together, which actually takes up about 3/4 of it. And I've been playing it, each time I add on a scene, I keep playing it back. And it has that effect, you've heard it over and over and over again.
Right.
The audience hasn't heard it yet, but I've heard it over and over and over again.
Right.
Whether you hear it over and over, you say, well, is it really as good as I thought it was the first time? I'm not so sure. You start to doubt yourself.
To it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But no, seriously, it is going to be good. I mean, especially when you're done with all the tightening up and so forth and putting the music in and getting the sound effects and the background noises and all that kind of thing. And we actually have kitchen sounds in this. We have kitchen sounds. I mean...
That was a lot of work going to look for all these little incidental sounds that we didn't know.
Oh, God.
Like, do we really need footsteps? Yes, we need footsteps.
Yep. And we need male footsteps and female footsteps. They have to be different kinds.
And clogs are 2 different things.
Absolutely they are. Yeah. Yeah. You have to pay attention. And we have a scene that's outdoors.
Yep.
In Los Angeles, which of course is highway city. Every single street corner is just filled with cars. So you have to reproduce that feel as well.
Yeah, because it's different from New York.
Oh, very different from New York. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the tires are different. I think that's what it is.
Oh, my God.
So I guess what I'm doing now is I'm reconnecting to my years when I was doing other kinds of editing for, helping people with online marketing and so forth. Mm-hmm. I would edit together stuff. So I'm reconnecting to that, which is kind of appropriate because reconnecting, that's our topic for today.
Yeah. Right. Nice segue. I like it.
Thank you. Yes. I didn't even practice that one.
Segue,
man. Now, Bill, you're the one who came up with the idea of reconnecting. And so I always have to ask, is there like a real world reason behind this one? Something that actually happened that made you think, we should talk about reconnecting?
Actually, yes. An old friend of mine from high school. We haven't spoken in 30 years. And I recently learned that he was not only going to be in town where I live, here in Rutland, Vermont, he was moving here.
Oh, wow.
He got a job as a middle school teacher here at Rutland Middle School, and he announced on Facebook, "Hey, I got a job in Rutland, Vermont, and I'm moving there." And another friend of mine mentioned to him on the comments, like, Bill G lives there.
Gotta love Facebook where everybody knows your business.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was like, "Oh, really?" And, we've been Facebook friends for years. So I understand most of the major events that have gone on in his life because, he shares these sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he didn't know that I lived in Vermont.
Ah.
And so that was rather interesting. Now, to give the guy credit, a lot of crap happened in his life for the last couple of years.
Check your location.
Yes, where I lived was the least of his concerns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, he ended up here in Rutland, and so we started connecting, and we're like, "Hey, let's get together for lunch," because, I've lived here for 4.5 years now, and I'm like, I can tell you where the best places to go because, I've been around.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took him to, the Yellow Deli. I don't know if you've ever been to the Yellow Deli before, but it's they've got locations around the country, but they're very, very, it's a unique experience.
Okay.
It's,
for it.
It's run by a group, which we can talk about. We can have a whole other show about it. One of the 12 tribes of Israel, they call themselves. It's actually run by these hippie people who formed a religious organization or religious cult, if you want to put it that way.
So in other words, they didn't understand the idea that it was the Jewish population that trademarked delis. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, that's the interesting thing about them is that they fancy themselves as second century Christians, and so they observe all the Jewish holidays, and
Okay.
and they all live together on farms throughout the country. They grow all their own food, and the interiors are made out of all this reclaimed wood, and it's very arts and crafts style. I mean, it is a unique experience, and I said, it is actually one of the highlights of living in Rutland.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that there are highlights of living in Rutland. That's a good thing.
There's actually 2 great places to eat in Rutland, and one of them is the Yellow Deli, and the other one is the Roots Restaurant.
Okay, all right.
And so, plug out there to these guys. but we, I took him to this very unique place, and he was like, "Wow, this is a great thing." And then, we sat there for a good 2 hours, just kind of catching up.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, number one, despite the fact that he posts fairly regularly on Facebook, I really didn't know a whole lot about his life.
Mm.
And then on top of that, interesting parallels. Our careers took a similar path in a lot of ways, and our relationships took a similar path. And so here we were connecting on a very, very deep level. And so I thought that would be an interesting topic to talk about. And first of all, what it's like to reconnect with somebody after a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And also how on Facebook and social media, how we create these kind of fictions about what our lives are actually like, when in fact it's just the public persona that you're putting out there, depending on what kind of energy that you want coming back to you from your friends.
And certainly lots of people have reconnected on Facebook. I mean, Louise is not exactly one of the more technologically inclined people on the face of the planet. So it took her a little while to even just get used to using Facebook. Mm-hmm. But once she figured it out, I mean, she reconnected with her entire high school class.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
that's what it's for.
Yeah, and that's how it was created. I mean, that's why the two brothers said that Mark ripped them off. But but that's the story of like literally hundreds of millions of people. They've reconnected with people from their past through Facebook. It does have certain, shall we say, side effects. consequences. Because you find out things about people that you haven't seen in some time. And you also get contacts from people who you may not have wanted to hear from.
Yep.
Never.
Never? Well, everyone except Alex, I should say. But I can tell you in most cases, most of the people who have reached out to me or who I've actually, it's been most of them reaching out to me, I was happy to hear from them. There was one, and I won't name who it is, but there was one person from my past whose sister actually reached out to me. And his sister was a really nice person, but I knew if I connected to her, it was going to be connecting to him, and I just didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to make that connection.
Well, that's your choice.
That's true. Yeah, and that's part of the value of doing it through social media.
Right.
But there can be a bit of a discomfort factor.
Yeah.
But not for Alex. Alex is giving me a look that says, no, I love all of them.
Well, like I've said before, my friends list is very exclusive. So like if I've never met you in my life, you probably won't get on it. Except I do accept some of the people, some of the fans of LOA today. I do, get to talk to them and get to know them and accept them as friends. But yeah, like I don't really have beef with anybody that I wouldn't want to hear from. I don't think so. Not off the top of my head anyway.
Mm.
Well, you actually told a story the other day about how you got a connection from somebody from your high school who you really didn't know very well.
Yeah.
And you accepted that person in a friend situation on Facebook. So, apparently there's a little bit of room to let people in.
There's a little bit of room. I mean, he did jog my memory. Like, we used to hang out with so-and-so, and I remember when you did this, and I was like, all right. And then, but this is the thing, if I see someone, friend me, and I don't recognize them right away, I always message them and I go, I'm sorry, and you are, and they'll tell me who they are, why they're messaging me, and blah, blah, blah. And, once that conversation gets going, if I start to remember you, or if the conversation is wholesome and I'm cool with you, then all right, I'll add you.
Okay. Well, that's very democratic. It's exclusively democratic.
Yes.
Exclusively democratic. I'm trying to make that work in my brain.
Like, you're trying to get your name on the list, but you have to know the owner of the club. You know what I mean?
That's right. Just slip him a 10. But so, Bill, I got to ask you. I mean, you're bringing this up because you had a connection along that line.
Yeah.
How much have you actually connected with people in the past? How has it worked out for you?
Not very much, especially living in Vermont. I mean, I'm kind of isolated here. No one really. We make jokes about Vermont, about especially Rutland, because Rutland is a good 45 minutes from the nearest major highway, interstate highway.
Wow.
So it's not a place where you go.
Yes,
It's not a place where you pass through unless you're coming.
No one's making pit stops at Bill's house.
No one's making pit stops at Bill's house because there is Route 7 that goes straight up Vermont. If you're going from Western Massachusetts to, say, Burlington, then yes, perhaps, or going from Western Massachusetts to Killington to go skiing, then perhaps you'll be going through Rutland. But most people who go to Killington are coming from Maine and New Hampshire, and so they're coming the other direction, so they don't even get as far as Rutland. And then if you're coming from the west, you are taking the Mass Turnpike, and you have bypassed us completely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rutland is not exactly a destination. In fact, the only reason I knew about Rutland at all is my father had a childhood friend who ended up moving to Rutland, and we visited him and his family when I was very, very young. Mm-hmm. And the only memory, this is really sad, the only memory that I have of that visit was he was a general practitioner, a medical doctor. Okay. And I got an ear infection, and so he gave me and prescribed the medicine. That's all I remember of the trip.
Oh, wow. Yes, but I lived here for 4.5 years. I love it here, and I love the isolation in a lot of ways, because again, it's a very close knit community. Most people know each other. which is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time.
Absolutely. That's where your reputation follows you no matter what. You don't have a choice.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you got to do a good job every time with the work that you do.
Yep.
Because people know.
They do.
You're constantly bumping into. I've had 3 different jobs here in Rutland, and I run into former coworkers at the grocery store all the time.
And unlike social media, you can't unfriend them. I mean, they're still there. No. They don't go away.
And so I thought it was rather unique that my friend from Morristown, New Jersey, was going to be. He lives less than 3 miles from me now. And
everything in Rutland is less than 3 miles, isn't it?
Rutland's actually a fairly big town. I mean, there's a lot of farms. I mean, there's Rutland Town and there's Rutland City. Rutland City is in the middle of Rutland Town, and Rutland City is actually your typical downtown, New England downtown. With 5-story buildings and a shopping district and a Walmart and whatever. It's got some stuff. I won't say it's got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we're not talking New York City here.
We're not talking New York City here, but they've got a great little theater called the Paramount. They don't get the Class A acts in there, but they do get the B-list acts in there. That Cheap Trick is coming this September. Oh
my god,
that's a few years old right there.
Yeah. So we're not talking A-list, we're talking B-list, but still B-list. Hey,
I think it's closer to D-list at that point. We're in Kathy's realm.
But anyway, they've got it's got a nice hometowny type of community here, which we like. And then when you move out into Rutland Township, then the houses are a lot more spread out. You got a lot more woods. You got got bears coming up to the back of the house.
Nope, not coming to visit.
We've got wildlife and whatever, and it's a really, really nice place to live if you're looking for a quiet place to live. That's all I'm saying. People keep moving out, and I keep saying, "Hey, come on, move in. Welcome to the community."
But let's go back to
unique. It was rather unique that this person who lived less than 2 miles from me in Morristown, New Jersey, which is just outside of Philadelphia, it came here. And the thing is, he had no idea I was here, and it was just sheer luck that we happened to be ending up in the same town. And I was like, this is spirit working here. This is absolutely spirit working here. This is absolutely the energies connecting. And when we were first talking, I said, he said, "Wow, what an interesting coincidence." I was like, "I don't believe in coincidence." And he was very curious about it. I was like, "What do you mean by you don't believe in coincidence?" I was like, "Because stuff like this just doesn't happen."
Well, apparently it does.
Apparently
it does.
Well, I mean, it just doesn't happen from an energetic spiritual sense, because something was there to as a teaching moment, not just for him, but also for me.
Okay.
And when we actually got together and we started talking, whatever, and I saw all these very interesting parallels and these very interesting mirrors going on, I was like, wow, this is definitely not a coincidence, because it actually allowed me to not just reflect on high school days, which was granted, that's 30 years ago. We're having our 30-year reunion coming up later this year. A long time ago.
Yeah.
So we really didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about high school, because a lot of life happened between then.
Yeah.
A lot more happened since than before.
Well, that's just it. A lot of stuff has happened. Plus, I don't know about you. My high school years, I could have talked about them in 2 minutes and I was done. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. But other people have different experiences, so maybe they take, 5 minutes or something like that.
Not me. All day.
All day? All day.
No, yes.
But what was also interesting is right after high school was over, I completely lost touch with this guy. And then after we got done getting together, I dragged out my old high school yearbook, and I just wanted to take a quick look, how deep was my connection with this guy? And then I started seeing our pictures together in various different clubs. We were in 4 different clubs together.
Wow.
You didn't remember this?
I did not remember that we were in
Wow.
I remember we were in one club together, but I forgot that we were in the 3 other clubs together.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
And it was crazy that, that I was like, oh my gosh, we actually had a pretty deep connection as far as high school is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Because, most people you were friends with in high school, if you have a connection like that with them, you tend to keep a connection for them, at least for a little while. But as soon as graduation was over, we went our separate ways, and I didn't, not even a peep, not even a conversation. We bumped to each other and when I was living in Morristown, I lived in Morristown. I went back and lived in Morristown for a couple of years, and we were, again, only a mile and a half from each other.
Mm.
Did not bump into each other. And if we did, we'd have nothing to talk about.
So near misses. You have near misses as well as the connection.
Yeah, we had a lot of near misses, and he was going through some stuff at the time. I was going through some stuff at the time. If we had that connection at that point, we would have had nothing to talk about except how miserable our lives were.
Yeah, that's a good topic to stay away from. I have to
Yeah. And then, but now that, we've got some perspective, and we're, he's trying to, make a new life for himself here. And, I've been making a new life for myself here for the last 4.5 years and whatever. And so we've got something to talk about now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We've got some perspective to talk about now. Whereas before we wouldn't have. And that actually got me thinking even about, Walt, how when you met Louise for the first time, where if you guys had met earlier than you actually did, the relationship probably wouldn't have worked out.
That would have been a disaster. We
it would have
included that. Yeah, it would not have worked out at all. Yeah.
So it's all about divine timing. It's all about divine. It's just how the stars line up and whatever. And even if you have a deep connection from the past, the fact that you have a past doesn't necessarily mean that you have a future.
Facts.
That's all. Yeah, that's true. Well, Alex, I know you've connected with a lot of people from high school. Have you had a reconnection story kind of along the lines of what Bill's talking about, though, where it was like you were paralleling each other all this time, and then finally you connected and you realized you were paralleling yourselves all this time?
No, I am a unicorn. No one parallels me.
Here I thought a unicorn had 2 horns. You got 1 horn. You have 2. You got 2 ears, period.
No, these are my ears. My horn is invisible to non-believers.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Well, you just outed me as a non-believer. Oh,
yeah,
dear.
I sure did. I sure did.
I saw that horn all the time, so, there I am.
See, thank you, Bill.
I'm so humiliated.
Hang your head in shame, sir. No, I have gone through so many random experiences in my life that I know people who probably have had one experience that I've had, or, done certain things, but like nobody's lived my life like I have. So we can't say there's been parallels. I have did have one incident where I ran into a friend in a place you don't want to run into a friend.
Oh dear.
Yeah, we're really close, and we weren't close at the time, but he was actually friends with my sister, and that's how we became friends.
Okay.
And he was in the mental health field. I was hospitalized for a suicide attempt, and he ended up showing up on my floor, and I was like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, it's a long story. I'll call you when I get out.
All right.
It's like when you go to prison and then your best friend's your CO. It's like, hey, what are you doing here? Not one of the places you want to run into an old friend. So then it turned into a loving relationship where he's like, I really am concerned about you. Like what's going on? What's happening? What brought you there? And then, we became close ever since. And he hasn't been down here to visit me, but I'm not saying anything, Gerard. But he's the guy I went to when, he's the guy who was supposed to hook us up with the guy who was going to do our theme song.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, that's like, we're close in that way. Like, I can reach out to him for anything. Like,
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I have reconnected. I have had also near misses. Like me and my friend will say we went like this for like most of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was like, oh well, I was friends with her friend, but we didn't know each other, and then I dated this person. Still didn't know each other, and we literally worked next door to each other in the same mall plaza. Like I worked at Papagino's, he worked at Shaw's, and he would come to Papagino's for lunch every day. I didn't know he had a crush on me, and that's why he was coming. He was like, nobody likes pizza that much. I was like, wrong. But anyway. So, but yeah, years later, we became really good friends, like tight, close friends to the point where like we finished each other's sentences and stuff that. Yeah. And then he moved, and now we're holiday friends where like I only speak to him on holidays, and it's sad because I miss him, but you know.
Well, that qualifies though. That's a reconnection that was had near misses and so forth. I think that fits. Yeah. That fits the MO, so to speak.
Yeah.
I can't really say going back to high school. I've reconnected with a number of people in high school, but I was never really close to anyone in high school. I was such a wallflower. I mean, I was just so introverted that I never really connected much with anybody, with a couple of exceptions. But I mean, they were truly exceptional.
Yeah.
For the most part. And I have connected with the one guy I was probably closest to during that time. He's a guy who was a musician. His name's Gary. Also currently in the medical field. And he and I weren't we weren't buddy, but we were very friendly, and we reconnected a number of years later when, he ended up connecting with my sister, with PJ. And PJ, pointed him toward me. And at the time, Louise and I were living in Virginia, and he was living 1 hour away in the mountains of Virginia.
Wow.
So, I mean, that was pretty cool considering we grew up, about 500, 600 miles north of there. So that was good. But that's the closest I've come to that kind of a reconnection. And I mean, we kind of maintained connection after that, on and off. But it's like it's a Facebook friendship at this point.
Yep.
It's not like we're calling each other every month or something like that.
Yeah.
So I've never really experienced what you guys are describing with high school friends. Now, I have experienced it with people I've met later in life. Bill, you and I did a previous show together, a previous radio show. So we reconnected in that way. And I've had other experiences like that, but not in high school. That was not one that I ever got.
Well, mine go back to not even high school, like elementary school. Like,
oh, geez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, 2 years before I met my wife, Nina, I discovered that we were at the same concert together.
Oh my!
We went to go see the Monkees reunion 2.
I love it. The Monkees.
It cracks me up every time both of y'all show your age on here. It cracks me up. I'm like, oh Jesus!
It was the reunion tour, so it wasn't like we were,
No, still.
Yeah.
Hey, Alex, it cracks me up because, I mean, he was a fan of the Monkees. That alone is enough for me to crack me up.
I was a fan of the Monkees. I'm not going to lie. When they had their TV show on Nick at Night, like, I was down with that. As brief as it was.
I was a quasi fan because actually I was going with a girl who was a big
you were fan by association.
Although my wife was the uber fan, she had all the albums, she had all the T-shirts and whatever.
See, this is another thing about the Monkees. I mean, at the time that the Monkees were, having their fame and so forth, it was really rare to have somebody admit that they were a fan of the Monkees. That just didn't happen. It was always, I know somebody who's a fan of the Monkees. And I'm not a fan of the Monkees.
Right. It's like, don't admit your shame in public.
That's right. Exactly.
Well, at the time, I mean, this is going to embarrass my wife terribly, but she was also a fan of the Guys Next Door.
Oh, geez.
I don't even know who that is.
The Guys Next Door was the 90s version of the Monkees.
Stop it. There was a 90s version of them. All right, I got to look this up later.
You got to look them up. I
have the Monkees theme song in my head.
No, they had their own TV show, and they were a boy band, and they had their own sketch comedy show.
Shut up.
Yeah, and they toured, and they did all the and they were actually more popular on the Mid-Atlantic region And so they would do these mall tours.
Mall tours. That's how boy bands made it back in the day, man. Yeah. Mall tours.
Mall tours. And her and her friend would be following them.
Wow.
I'm speechless. There are too many opportunities for me to be speechless. This is one of them. Mall touring, a cover band of the Monkees. I mean, I never heard
mall
of it.
touring.
Well, they
was
weren't
like
a cover band of the Monkees. They did their own stuff, but it was a studio-made boy band.
Okay.
They came out just before, like, Boys to Men came out. I mean, so this is pre-Boys to Men. This is pre, what was that other big one? Justin Bieber or whatever. This is pre that.
Oh, so like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys,
all
those.
Yeah, it was about that era, a little bit before that era.
Okay.
So late 80s, early 90s.
Okay. New Kids on the Block is probably who you're thinking of, because that was around that era.
Right.
Oh, man.
I'm so speechless. I have nothing to add.
Yeah. So, but I thought that was a rather, and actually even the Monkees is a boy band. They were a boy band before there were boy bands.
But they weren't. They were an artificial boy band. That's the thing.
Well, so was
artificial or official. It doesn't matter. You're still a boy band. Doesn't matter how you got there. It's not about the journey; it's the destination. In that case.
Well, the case of the Monkees, the Monkees is what happens when you get producers getting together trying to create the Beatles.
Right, exactly.
That's exactly what it was.
Definitely bootleg Beatles.
Yeah,
and even the Jonas Brothers. I mean, they're
blasphemy.
Oh, sure. They're still.
You take that back right now, sir. Those are talented gentlemen.
But it's the same concept where a studio creates a persona.
No, when you really want a studio to create a persona, you want P. Diddy's Making the Band. That is like Danity Kane and what was the name of the band? It's a whole MTV show about literally a studio creating a girl band and a boy band. Like it was crazy. I mean, none of them are around today. Just saying.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Anyway, we've gotten off track here, but
yes, we have. Hashtag boy bands.
So let's see if we can reconnect to reconnecting.
Reconnecting to reconnecting.
No, I want to talk about the Facebook frauds. That's the second part of the.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
There's a lot to talk about there.
Yeah. And it's amazing how when you look through your friend list too, about and to me it's all about. We sometimes talk about like energy vampires and people who are just trying to pull in energy from other people and whatever, and they use their Facebook friends as a means to do that. Mm-hmm. Either the poor me's or I got some terrible tragedy, the pray for me's and all that stuff. It's all about
send good vibes.
Yeah, send me vibes. Like, when they say send me vibes, what they're really saying is send me energy because I don't have any inside of me.
Right.
And so some of them do create these elaborate fictions about what is going on in their lives in order to get that energy.
Yep.
It's an interesting thing because on Facebook in particular, since Facebook is such a big platform. I mean, it's the second most popular platform of any website in the world. Google's number one, Facebook's number two, and it's been that way for quite some time. And Facebook, because it's so big, attracts every single scammer in existence.
That's so true.
Trying to do something to scam you. The thing that I wanted to mention though is, there are a lot of scammers who try to get money out of you or who try to, get you to buy some product that's an illegitimate product or whatever it might be. But had you noticed that the increase in scammers whose sole purpose it is to do what Bill just described, to basically steal energy? They're just out there trying to grab energy.
Right.
And some of them don't even know they're doing it. They're just like, no, I need attention. I don't feel like that's stealing energy. It is, though. It is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's happening more and more. In fact, Facebook a few years ago, actually it wasn't even a few years ago, it was about a year and a half ago, they put in a feature for people who run Facebook groups.
Uh-huh.
A feature where when somebody is applying to be a member of the group, the administrator can ask them to answer a question or two.
Yes. Mm-hmm. All my groups have that, yeah.
Right. And that feature probably has done more to reduce the number of scammers and spammers and trollers coming into groups than anything else.
I actually entered a group where one of the questions was, "Are you a scammer?"
Yeah, right.
I was like, not to my knowledge.
It's interesting to see what the scammers actually put into some of these questions.
Yeah.
Right? Usually, the ones that I have been able to detect anyway are people coming from relatively poor nations around the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, for instance, there's one group that I run for the local valley called the Farmington Valley, and it's just, chat about the Farmington Valley. And so one of the questions I ask is, what's your connection to the Farmington Valley?
Right.
And most often, they won't answer the question at all. So I know, okay, well, they're not coming in. And occasionally, I'll get somebody from another country saying that their answer is yes.
Okay.
Which tells me they have no idea what the question was.
Right.
Or what it means or what I'm talking about. But I figured they had to put something in.
Yeah.
So I never really thought that language barriers would be a way to block spammers and scammers, but apparently it is.
It is.
Yeah.
That's how you catch catfish, too, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm. I like how a lot of these groups have strict rules on solicitation too.
Yes, yes.
And where if you are joining a group simply to promote your product or your service and whatever, and then you post that link or post that website, oh, come and see me and I'll help you out and whatever, you get banned.
Yeah,
really quickly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unless you're the admin, then you can promote all you want.
Right.
Yeah. Which is why I have so many groups. I'm posting all over the place.
Alex, are you the admin of certain groups?
I am the admin of 3 groups, yes.
3 groups, wow.
2 of them are Walt's. Oh, yes.
We can promote the grass is greener. We can absolutely promote.
We can go overboard. There's no doubt about that. Well, we actually have at times. But,
yeah.
But when you're the admin of a group, you're basically faced with a conundrum. Because the conundrum is, it depends on why you created the group. If you create the group from the perspective that I think the vast majority of Facebook users prefer, you create it simply out of the goodness of your heart, and that's all you really care about. Right? But if you create the group because you're trying to promote an audio play or promote a business or something like that, then you have to deal with, I'll call it the guilt factor. Because you're telling everybody else you can't promote in this group, but you're going to promote.
Right.
And so now it's a question of, well, just how brazen are you willing to be? Now, there are probably people out there who are, I'll call them the Donald Trumps of the world, who really wouldn't care one way or another, about the double standard.
Right.
But for me, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. I have to think if that bothers me about any of my other groups. No. Not my personal groups, but like groups I'm a part of. It's mostly TV groups, mostly. But no, I don't think so. Like, I don't feel like they do have certain, at least in the groups that I'm in, they do have, like, once a month they'll be like, okay, we'll do, what's it called? Like cross promotion, like you promote us, we'll promote you, and they'll do that once a month, so it's not annoying to everybody, but you still get your stuff out there. So I like that option, so that way, no one feels a certain kind of way. But people who just there's this one guy I went to high school with, and he joined my spoiler alert group, and he was like, he's just started spamming us with all these links to his rap album. First of all, sir, you're 35 years old. If you haven't made it in the rap game, it's a little late. Second of all,
age discrimination.
I'm just saying, let the dream go and move on. Because spamming my TV group that has nothing to do with music is not the way to go.
This is true.
So I had to personally reprimand him and say, you take it down. You will be kicked out of the group if that happens again. because I feel like that's the only reason you're here. At first I was like, oh, he's supporting me by joining my group, but no.
You were actually pretty kind. I mean, there were a lot of admins who were just saying,
I'm very nice online.
You're out of here, done.
Yeah.
One strike and you're out.
No, I was like, he could be here for the camaraderie. He could actually like TV, who knows? And he just decided, it would be a good idea, because he does it in our high school reunion page too. And people are really annoyed with that. So rules had to be made.
Well, actually, this is kind of tying into the original topic of Reconnect. I know that sounds strange, but let me tell you what I mean. I mentioned a few moments ago how I didn't really connect very much at all the first time around with people I went to high school with. And I think a large portion of that was me. But another piece of that pie, so to speak, was that I don't know. I kind of wanted a sort of a purity of relationship, I guess you might want to call it. And I had run in pretty early to the idea that, well, everybody has their own agendas. Everybody has their own thing that they're pursuing. And most people weren't as hesitant as I was to push theirs, which meant I was less interested in being friends with them. So I look back on that experience and I think about where the world of marketing has gone to today. It's gotten to the point now where people are really, really sensitive about promotional messages. They really want they want the friendship to be there before you even bring something up. And then if you you bring it up once and you don't keep hammering on it. Right? Which is exactly how I felt 40 years ago when I was in school.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of like, all of society is caught up to where I was, or I've regressed. I'm not sure which.
I feel like it both happened and you met in the middle.
You met in the middle? Yeah, okay. That works.
But actually, in terms of Facebook marketing and whatever, I mean, I do a bit of it for myself. I promote my blogs, I promote my my services. I've got a business site for the Vital Bioenergetics. To tell you quite honestly, I've been doing this for 2 years, and I may have gotten 1 or 2 clients out of it. But I've spent quite a bit of money on them.
That was one of the things that drove me crazy when I was providing marketing services. Before I even knew about LOA, I was helping local business owners who were trying to get online and trying to get business and so forth. And I would always advise them along the line of what I was talking about, building the relationships and so forth. And they all wanted to do the quick hit thing. So I would do, if dependent on how I felt. If I felt like, okay, I really need to get some money in here, I'll do some work for you along that lines, I would do it. But I wouldn't go into any kind of extreme spamming situation. I refused to do that entirely, which cut out huge amounts of income, I have to say. But I also did track what happened with the people who I did that kind of work for. And I certainly knew I had a lot of friends who were marketers who would tell me their stories. And they all mirrored what you just said, Bill.
Yeah.
People did not realize, and I think to this day still do not realize, that all of those cheap, quick hit approaches are dismally expensive.
Yes.
They're horrifically expensive in terms of cost of acquisition of customers.
Right.
You can actually spend a lot of money and get no customers.
Yes.
Doing that kind of cheap stuff. Right. It just blows my mind that people continue to do that. But so I guess I'm happy that we're reaching the point now where we are achieving a society. Maybe achieving is the wrong word. We are reaching the point in society where the relationship side of marketing is playing a much bigger role than it did. And I like that. So how does that connect into reconnecting? To me, I'm willing to reconnect with anyone who is not overtly trying to always sell me something.
Right.
And just wants to know who I am. Because if I connect with somebody like that from the past, if I reconnect again, I can be friends with somebody like that.
Right.
Because ultimately, that's a question of, are they connecting with me because they want to get something out of me, or are they connecting with me because they like me?
Right. And the crux of my business model is that I get referrals from when I do speaking engagements, because there I'm with a group of people and I'm making a personal connection with them while I'm doing a speech. But the online marketing or whatever, an ad or whatever doesn't do it, because my work is about personal connection. I'm reaching into their souls and coming out with something to make them a better person or whatever, help them heal themselves and whatever. And you can't get that out of a Facebook ad or an Instagram post or whatever. All you are is just noise along with all the other noise out there.
I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to use Walt to prove my point.
Okay.
Walt put out an ad and got me. So.
All right.
But there is a difference there. The difference is, yes, I did have something I wanted out of it.
Right.
But I also learned what made advertising effective.
Yes.
What made advertising effective was appealing to the interests of the buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of appealing to...
Probably because you weren't selling anything also.
Well, I was selling something. What I was selling was an opportunity to be part of a podcast.
Okay, touche.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And to you, that was not a difficult thing to buy into.
No.
And the reason it wasn't difficult is because I was reaching out to you. I didn't know who you were at the time.
Right.
But I was reaching out to you on two fronts. I was saying, I'm looking for somebody who has an interest in the law of attraction, and I'm looking for somebody who has a comedic background, and I'm looking for somebody who might also want to combine those two things together to be part of a podcast.
Yeah.
And that hit you right in where you live.
Center.
That was dead center.
Horn.
Yeah. So was that a promotion? Yeah. But it was a promotion based on, I want to know who you are. I want that person that I'm talking about there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of marketing that really does work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at that point, I have to ask the question, is it really marketing?
I mean, in the sense it always is.
It is.
As long as you're pushing a product, it's marketing.
Yeah. But in another sense, it was about connecting with a future friend.
Yeah.
Which I'm very pleased to say I got one.
And
it worked.
And it hit you exactly at the moment when you were most receptive to hear the message.
Facts.
Mm-hmm.
Facts.
And
exactly.
if that message had hit you, say 6 months prior or 6 months after, it might not have struck that chord.
Divine timing.
Yeah. That certainly makes a big difference. So,
but trying to force it, and that's what I'm talking about.
It.
When you're doing these spam campaigns through Instagram or these spam campaigns through Facebook, you might hit one or two divine timings in that.
Yeah.
But you have spent a heck of a lot of money doing it, and the return on that investment is not going to be nearly what you spent.
Right.
That's why today it's gotten to the point that the professional marketers get it. They understand if they want to actually reach an audience, they do it through somebody who already has the audience.
Yes.
So, for instance, if you have somebody who wants to publish a book, they publish a book that's either written by or written about a person who's already famous and already has an audience who's going to read the book.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That way they don't have to try to promote the book and get the people who know nothing about the person who's written about in the book to buy the book. Because they already know about them.
Mm-hmm.
But I get this I get calls all the time from book marketers who want to promote my book, who want to put it. They want to put it in these trade shows. They want to put it in bookstores and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You just have to pay us $1,500 and we'll do it.
Yeah.
Right? And when my margin per book, the amount of revenue I get per book is in the 10% range for a $12.99 book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to sell a heck of a lot of books to get that investment back.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then I have to explain to them that the book, I'm not in the business of selling books. I'm in the business of selling my services. And the book is a marketing tool for me to help me sell my service. If all I sold were books, I'd be out of business.
Right. That's true. That's true. And in fact, that's the way it is with most people. I don't know if you're aware of this, Alex. Did you know that over 100,000 new titles get published every year?
I did not.
100,000.
100,000.
Over 100,000. And you know how many of them end up on the bestseller list, right?
Like 2.
It's not that many. So you don't go into getting your book published because you expect, well, actually a lot of people do go into it with the expectation that I'm going to become famous by doing this. Well, that's not the way it usually works.
Right,
no,
right.
Not at all.
Usually what happens is you bring your own audience. And that's what happened with my first book. That's why I sold 26 copies.
You got to find your niche.
26 copies.
That was it, 26.
It's a nice round number.
I think I was I one of those people?
No, you weren't. No.
I know I read the ebook.
Did you?
Maybe you posted it. Maybe you just sent it to me. I don't know. I don't remember now.
Well, no, this isn't the one that I edited last year.
No. I'm talking about your
first one, the novel. Okay.
Yeah, the novel.
I didn't know. I don't remember. Actually, I didn't even know how to promote books at that point, so I didn't send out any free copies of the book because I didn't understand to do that.
I know I read it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Confession.
Well, then 27.
I read about a third of it.
See, that's not a good sign. He could only get a third of the way through and he lost interest. I mean,
my first book too did not sell that many copies either.
Oh, okay.
And my first book was also fiction. And it was also politically based and whatever.
But all you have to do is go to a bookstore or just go to Amazon or whatever online.
I was going to say, do they have bookstores anymore?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Barnes and Nobles and all that
Barnes
stuff.
and Nobles? Yeah, they're still around.
Yeah.
You know, but all you have to do is...
We've got two of them right in downtown Rutland.
Hashtag Rutland.
But all you gotta do is go to any book source and look at the bestsellers and read a segment of them, and you realize they're written by people who don't know how to write books either. I mean, people don't get published because they're good authors.
Right.
They get published because they have a following.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only reason they get published.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them haven't figured that out yet. So having the following is everything. I mean, whatever Justin Bieber did wrong, he got one thing right. He got a following.
Yes, he did.
He got a big following. He got it fast.
Thank YouTube for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, but he still got it. I mean, there are a lot of other people who published on YouTube who didn't get the following he got.
That's true. They're all still trying to do it
They're
now.
all still trying to reproduce what Justin Bieber did, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That following is everything.
Yeah.
So let's go to the following for a minute, because we're talking about reconnecting, but we're also talking about connecting.
Right.
Mm.
I mean, it's one thing to reconnect. It's another thing to connect for the first time. And when you're connecting for the first time, it's almost harder. Reconnecting is a little bit easier because you have a history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, connecting for the first time.
Absolutely.
I find it magical.
Why is that?
Because it's like you meet someone for the first time and then you realize you have all these things in common and you believe the same things and you think the same way. And it's like, oh my God. We're like, I don't know which, what was it? What was Bill saying? Which one's the one that you want, the twin flame or the soul flame?
The twin, actually, you've got your twin flame, you've got your flame mate, and you've got your soulmate.
Okay.
Those are the three types.
Gotcha. So one of those options.
Yeah. Twin flames. I don't recommend a twin flame unless you got your own crap together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that both people have to have their own crap together in order to make that work.
Yeah. Unless you like explosions.
Otherwise, there will be.
That's ironic. I saw
soulmates. You can both be working on yourselves and still get along.
Yeah.
And flame mates, you still need to be working on your own stuff, but there's still enough of a connection, or there's enough wiggle room there to make it work out. But flame mates, you have to have your crap together in order to make that really, really work. Otherwise, there are explosions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what were you saying, Alex?
I said I saw a meme on Facebook that basically explained what Bill was talking about. It had it said twin flames, and it was a picture of two lighters, meaning they're about to start some shit. Like it's gonna be a problem. And then I think it said I forget what did you say the other one was?
Flame mates.
Flame mates, and it was a cigarette and a lighter.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
With the two lighters, was there a fuse nearby?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was a race to the fuse is what it was.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And incidentally, a couple I've been working on with the twin flame thing, actually had a nice happy ending. So it was good.
That's nice.
Good. Actually, I've been working on two different couples. The one couple, they broke up, which was a good thing.
Yeah, sometimes it's for the better.
Often is.
But and the reason why they were able to break up is because the codependent relationship that was developed because of the the twin flame situation was gone.
Nice.
We managed to clear that, and they were able to, then they were able to part, and not and the all the negative energy was gone. And in the other case, by healing that twin flame within, they were actually able to see that they actually did enjoy being together to the point where they could then be together without blowing up the world. So two very good success stories out of that.
Right.
That is good. Yeah. Well, first of all, they ended a codependent relationship in the first case.
Right.
And the second case, they managed to be together without blowing up the world. Those are victories.
Yes.
And without being codependent. They were able to get rid of their codependent relationship without needing to break up.
Right.
So they could actually get the true, real benefit of being twin flames.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know people can actually pull that off, because you hear so many stories about the other way around. So that's like reassuring.
It is.
Yeah, setting the whole damn forest on fire.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but back to the point with connection versus reconnection. Yes, reconnection is easier because you have the history, and again, this is why I do as many speaking engagements as I do, is because I'm seeking connection. Because when I get a client in for the first time, we need to connect on a very deep personal level, and that's one of the reasons why I love my job so much. Is because I get to meet people on a very deep personal level, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of that.
Well, not so much on a deep personal level, but it's one of the main reasons I do the podcast. Why I started doing a podcast was because I wanted to connect with people, but I wanted them to be kind of invited to connect with me. Because I mean, when you record a podcast, you put it out there and hope somebody listens. It's not like you grab somebody and say, okay, listen to this podcast. You know, it doesn't quite work that way, you know. So anybody who's actually listening and coming back, oh, I actually connected with them. That's good.
Right.
That's a healthy and happy thing. So I like that part a lot. And I guess that, well, we're near the end of the show, so this is a good time to say I really appreciate all our podcast listeners. I mean, I really do. We
love you.
We do. Yeah. It's like, it's like, what's her name? The actress. I can't think what her name is. She said at the Academy Awards, you like me. You really like me. I mean, it just summarizes it. It's great.
Yeah.
And we like you too. So, by the way, for those of you who are not yet subscribers, make sure you become a subscriber, because, you're getting this 5 days a week, 5 different sets of co-hosts, and it's always different every single day. Very simple to do. Go to the homepage of the website, loatoday.net. Click on the information at the top. You'll see it. It's set up directly for your device. And then just click through, and just like that, you'll be subscribed. And also listen to us on YouTube. That way you can see our faces as well as hearing us. And you can also join us on the live stream. We love it when we get people on the live stream, sharing comments and questions, asking questions. We haven't had questions in a while, but they're always fun. No, we need to get questions again, because that's a lot of fun. But, So, Alex, tell people how to find us, how to subscribe, how to notify, and how to ask the questions.
Okay, so if you want to look for us on LOA Today podcast videos on YouTube, then you can hit the subscribe button, and next to the subscribe button, there is a little bell. You hit that, you'll be notified every time we're live. And also, while you're watching us, you might want to hit the thumbs up or thumbs down button, depending on how you're feeling about each episode. And if you want to talk to us, you can leave messages in the comments. You can leave us messages on, what are our emails? Oh, Alex at LOAtoday.net and Walt at LOAtoday.net.
How soon they forget.
I'm just saying, if you want to, if you have an anonymous question that you would like us to address on the air, but you don't want to use your name, you can email us and we will discuss it.
Sounds good to me. I like that.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for bringing up the topic, Bill. That was a good one. Reconnecting. And we hope, of course, that our listeners continue to connect, because that's how we continue to have listeners. But thank you very much for bringing that up. And Alex, as usual, thank you for all your insights. And we're looking forward to the launch of The Grass is Greener this Friday. So join us. If you want to listen into the live stream, we're going to live stream starting at 9:45 New York time. And we'll actually start playing That's PM, correct? That's in the evening. That's not morning. That's right. So you don't have to skip work. You can actually do it during the evening.
Yeah.
And we will also at 10 p.m. sharp, New York time, we will actually play the first episode during the live stream. So that'll be the first opportunity to hear it. So be sure to join us. So thank you guys. Thank you to our live stream listeners, and thank you to our podcast listeners as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.